man in the man cave with man flu. I'm one of those people, excuse me. Every bug, or do I look pasty? I look pasty. Usually I've got red cheeks, haven't I? Every bug and disease and cough and sneasel that goes at work. Anyway, I get it, and I've been bad all week. You know, like with it coming on you. And then Friday it really kicked in. And yesterday I had to take my old uncle out for his weekly airing to the local pub. And that was, I felt alright after a couple of light refreshments, to be fair. But now I feel like crap, basically. And now my wife's got it. And I thought to myself, as I was out with my uncle yesterday, this is relevant. Due to the astounding success of my Militarian and Ghosts, I thought I'd do aliens. Not aliens, alien. Alien. So I am having light refreshment because I'm off work tomorrow. I'm going to be bad. I'll be bad anyway, moping around. So I may as well be alright, have a couple of these, and then I feel sorry for myself tomorrow. We're off work anyway, so mainly difference, isn't it? Here we go. And it isn't, shouldn't have showed that. It isn't actually that beginning with a G, it isn't. Someone commented, I got it right, it's another type of stout. I quite like it, only 1 or 2 or 9 of these, I'll be alright. So, what is the point of today's video? I'm going to do a sort of review, because I did some reviews on my old channel before I took it all apart. And I've just read the book as well, because obviously that's the film in the background. The sound's not on, you can see the DVD box. And so hopefully there's no copyright issues with this. I did try and watch this the other day, but for some reason my DVD player upstairs kicked it out about halfway through, which is disappointing. So I might finish watching this, as well as the other things I want to watch on YouTube today. And I've had this book probably 7 or 8 years, charity shop, 50p. And as far as I'm aware, the book, this was published, I think this is 90, I'm sure it's 2002 or 1992. It is 1992, this version, and it was printed in 1979, so I don't think the film doesn't come from the book comes from the film, which is odd, because if it's coming from the film, you'd think it would be exactly the same, but it isn't. So in the book, they don't find what is called variously the space jockey or the navigator, the big fossilized creature with the hole in its side. I'm presuming. See, this isn't a review to somebody who's never seen the film before, probably, because, like, you know me, I just talk a load of crap. This is aimed at my target audience of middle-aged gits like me, who've probably seen this film as many times as I have, because I do think that Militaria blends into other things, doesn't it, like railway stuff and film bufferage, well, it does in my world anyway. So I thought I would do a kind of review. So the differences, apart from they don't find the navigator in the book, is also at the beginning of the film. It says that the Nostromo on the DVD says is carting millions of tons of ore. It says materials ore. It says metal ore. But anyway, you don't get the impression. In the book, it tells you it's an oil refinery, and that the Nostromo is a tug towing this giant oil refinery. It's full of crude oil. Now, what do you need crude oil for? I think this film's supposed to be set about 2087, end of this century. And it says in the book that even though man has surpassed the use of petrol engines, etc., 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 we still need oil for making stuff out of plastic. And because there's none left on Earth, we have to go into space to find it. So there you go. It's quite relevant nowadays as we march on towards green technology. You still need oil to make stuff like camera stands, and there's probably oil in this manufactured, I don't know, whatever. Also in the film, it's left out at one point, like Ripley, played by Sigourney Weaver in the book, she asks Lambert if she'd ever slept with Ash, the science officer, because she's suspicious of him. Obviously he turns out to be a robot, but that's not in the film, I don't think. And also some of the directors cut some of the scenes. As she's leaving the ship, in the book she finds Dallas all cocooned in the thing, being made into a little egg with a creature, all that carry on. And that didn't happen in the film. Or it did, but there was director cut out of it. So what do I think of it as a film? I think it is keen, first rate. I think it's a really, really good film. And the special effects for me in this film really hold up today. Now it's what? Now it's 1979. What's that? 30, 40. It's 45 years ago, isn't it? 46 years ago. So 46 years before that was 1933. You know, imagine a film from 1933. It would have been silent. It wouldn't have been. There's no comparison. I think the only things that let it down a little bit is the where the chest burster comes out of John Hurt's chest, and it goes like scuttles across the dinner table. That looks a bit naff. Some of the matte paintings where it's painted at the back of the spaceship, yeah, a little bit, but not nothing to spoil the film. The nuclear explosion at the end where the ship gets blown up. I'm running ahead of myself. I know that looks a bit. Could have been done better. I suppose they could digitally do something with that, couldn't they? And also the shot of Ash when his head gets knocked off, telling you the story, if you haven't already seen it, that jumps a bit. And apparently as well, I did watch a review today of the film, just simply to get me juices flowing. I'm just doing this as a bit of fun. That the latex head of Ash shrank in the studio lights. So in the film, when they pull the plug on him, it sort of rocks back and he's got like a funny grin on his face. That's because it shrank in the studio lights, apparently. Now, I have been to the Science Fiction Museum in Allendale, Northumberland. They've got loads of alien stuff up there. So I've got some little notes here, simply because I've got to remember what I'm saying. So anyway, for those of you who don't know, which most of you will, so it is an oil refinery being towed across the wastes of space, and like I said, special effects are really excellent. It's always like a benchmark for me that these sort of films, when I go to the pictures, I want to be told a story. I want to be whisked away from my boring, tedious life, and I want to watch. If it's a war film, I want to be in the zone. I don't want to be lectured. I don't want to be told anything about the real world. I want a story to be told to me. So it's just escape. It's completely escapism. And I've always thought Alien is completely that way inclined. So they're going through space, and they hear the computer picks up a distress signal, we think, and they go and investigate. And it turns out not to be a distress signal, but a warning. There's 7 crew plus the cat, and obviously one of them gets infected, John Hurt. In the film, when the chest burster bursts out, because it lays it, obviously, he goes to look at the egg opens, puts the little creature inside him, which grows, bursts out. Apparently it was obviously in the script that this was going to happen, but what Ridley Scott didn't tell the cast was that there was going to be loads of blood and gore, and a lot of the blood hit the actress who played Lambert, I can't remember her name, and she fell on the floor. So some of the shock was real because they didn't realise how much blood there was going to be. And the thing gets away, grows. So there's one of the crew down, go through the story. Then there's Brett, the 2 maintenance guys. And I always say to my wife, you're like Sigourney Weaver, and I'm like the maintenance guys. I work maintenance a lot, and I've had people in charge of me like my wife. What are you doing? Have you done it now? And he just goes, turns the steam on. No, we can't fix it. And as soon as she goes, turns it off. Yeah, I get where he's coming from. So one by one, they end up getting finished off by the creature, and in the end, she escapes in the shuttle with the cat. Cat's got to survive, right? And the creature's with her, but she manages to fight it off. It's a haunted house in space, I suppose, and the tagline was, in space, no one can hear you scream. And I for one, really enjoy the film. I enjoyed the film. I could watch it again. I might finish watching it this afternoon. Now, in 2 seconds, got to gather my thoughts. Yeah. So, the sort of in the little miniature plots, inside plots, was obviously the creature jumps on his face, and some of the shots of the navigator in the alien spaceship they find, the crew members are portrayed by some of the crew's kids. So obviously they build something. The navigator is quite a large set, make it look bigger. The kids are in the spacesuits and you can't tell. So that's quite a good idea. And they're not supposed to let quarantine reasons let them on board because he's obviously been infected. But Ash, as we find out, robot, lets them in. So he's being instructed by the company to make sure this thing gets back for their cyber war. Carry on, that's basically the story, and the crew are expendable. Now, that's really the gist of the show. The actor who played the alien was, I can't remember his name, I should have wrote it down. He was an African actor, a Nigerian, I believe. And as they were casting the movie, there was all sorts of thoughts they were thinking about how they were going to portray the creature as a full-grown creature. They walked into a pub in Soho, and there's this really thin Nigerian fella stood at the bar, and he's 6'11" or 6'10". And I don't know if it was Ridley Scott. Someone went, "That's our man." And they got him to practice Tai Chi, so his movements would all slow down, and you don't actually see the creature really in full looking at it. You don't see it. You remember, this was a time when, prior to this, in 2001: Space Odyssey, Star Wars, special effects were starting to get better and better and better, but still they didn't have the technology. I was watching something this morning where they couldn't use the same technology that was used to have the spaceship fly in the Star Wars. I can't remember the difference between, so they use one steady camera, and I think they do a great job of it. It does seem like a spaceship, and it was built on one set, so the actual actors were all crammed in one set, so that probably added to the realism. I'm just having a look at my notes here before I get into the reason why I did this. The artist H.R. Geiger, you have to look him up, the German fellow, I think, and some of his images, what goes on in his mind, created the alien, if you like. Some of his artwork, apparently he had to be told to tone it down a bit because a lot of his artwork was sexually orientated. So that was interesting. And the thing that I like about it is you did go through a stage in the movie industry where spaceships were all stainless steel and clean buttons and silver spacesuits. Now, this is an industrial complex in the sky, basically. Now, I've worked on, obviously, chemical plants and oil refineries, and I'll tell you something. If you're on night shift in the chemical works, something that looks like the Nostromo but dumped on land, if that makes sense. And I've never been in an offshore oil rig, but I imagine it's the same. There's nobody about. You might have a job, I don't know, replacing a valve. There might be 2 years. Sometimes you work on your own. Depends. That's just the way the world is. And there's no one there. It's all lit up. You'd think driving past almost hundreds of people were there. There's maybe 5 or 6 people in a control room, and that's it, honestly. So the way that the spaceship is set up, and it's all grungy and dirty, and looks like leftovers of an old World War II bomber. I'm sure some of the seats and stuff and whatnots were from bomber aircraft. And I like the way that as the alarm goes off for them to divert their passage out of hypersleep, because they're in hypersleep a lot. They're literally only there as the crew. I get this more from the book, to, in case anything goes wrong, make sure the cargo gets to its destination, really. They're sort of like caretakers, really, more than anything else. I like the way the helmets, the instructions come across the helmets, are reflected in the thing. And let's have a look. So when you think about, it's got acidic blood as well. It burns through the hull. It can burn through the hull. I think that's about it regarding the film. In the book as well, the maintenance guys spend a lot of the time away from them in a separate engineering department and drinking light refreshments quite a bit. I do like the way that the film is, obviously in my channel, I don't think I've ever said anything too political, and I don't want to, but talking about films nowadays, they do tend to have a message. They do tend to be more, you have to have certain types of characters in, just the way the world is nowadays, and that probably didn't happen years ago. Years ago, the good guy was always the white guy. So that sort of thing. You know what I mean? But what I do like about this film is it's supposed to be set at the time 100 odd years in the future, and it's a mixed crew. And on this review I did watch today, it said that they wanted to reflect, they wanted a bit of diversity, because it doesn't say like Yaphet Kotto, who plays I can't remember his name now, plays the character of the maintenance guy in there. It doesn't say that he's a black guy, but he was in the film. And it just doesn't feel forced. It just say it feels natural that there's a woman navigator. Ripley's the executive officer, second in command, something like that. So yeah, no dramas, and that reflected, probably following on from Star Trek being more mixed crew. The original 1960s show didn't Captain Kirk and Lieutenant Uhura share the first mixed race on-screen kiss? I do believe they did. Yeah, so that sort of reflected on there. And with that in mind, the reason I'm doing this little video today is because I like talking crap and drinking beer in front of the camera. But apart from that, because I was out yesterday with my old uncle. Oh, hang on a minute. We've got an interloper in the garden. The neighbour's cat. My little cats won't like that. They're in their enclosure. They're not allowed out to free range roam. We don't want them getting run over, do we? As long as he doesn't come in here. Anyway, when I was out with my old uncle yesterday, he's never married. And years ago he used to travel the world. He was an engineer everywhere. I think I'm well travelled. He's well travelled on toast, if you get me. He's really been to some places. But when he was back in the UK, he went back to his parents' house. My grandmother had died. So me and my little sister at the time, we'd spend a lot of time around my granddad's, especially with my uncle, who was a favourite uncle. All that sort of carry on. And he said to me something. He said, "Here, do you remember that film, The Alien?" I went, "Yes." I said, "I've just been watching it again." And we had a bit of a chit chat about it. So to set the stall out, we used to watch a lot of sci-fi as kids. I quite like it. And the fare on TV in the 1970s in Britain was Star Trek, with Captain Kirk and Spock, all that sort of carry on. Doctor Who. Trying to think what the other ones were. Star Trek, Doctor Who. I will write it down here somewhere, I think. Star Trek, Doctor Who, Twilight Zone, black and white, and The Outer Limits. They were the ones that really stick in my mind. And the Twilight Zone, I think I've got a load of the DVDs upstairs. Hit and miss, couldn't it? One of the better ones was where the girl thinks she's ugly and she wants an operation to become like everybody else. When they take the mask off, when they take the bandages off, she's beautiful, and she screams because everybody else in the room's got this like they look odd because they've got like pig's noses or something like that. But that makeup was used, or that way of doing the makeup was used in Planet of the Apes, which is another groundbreaking film, which had a lot to comment about the way society was going in some respects. How I think there was a lot of racial tensions in America at the time, and I think that was sort of reflecting that. When one group's in charge of another group, something along them lines. I think it has been said before. It was a sort of a statement. And The Outer Limits, again, that was another one that always reminded me like that there was always a noise like something going on in there. Star Trek, obviously, the world famous. Doctor Who, cardboard monsters, some of the aliens on there. I mean, you were crapping yourself as a kid because that's all you had. If you're only I remember going back to Planet of the Apes. I couldn't understand how they got the faces to move and talk. And we went to Lightwater Valley as kids, and they were there. There was actors dressed up like them, and the Urko, the big chief of police, or whatever he was. Same with Doctor Who, scary, but that's all you had. You couldn't compare it with anything else. So I remember I'd actually looked up Star Trek today. I'm going well off piece there, aren't I? I looked up Star Trek today. Some of the creatures, some of the aliens on it, because my memory's always like they beam down on the same old planet, same studio or California backlot, and they end up talking to a bloke who was painted green, who's got a toga on, who's playing a lyre, ding, and he says, "Captain Kirk, we are a very far advanced alien civilization." No, you're not. You're a bloke in a toga. You're not scaring me. Or they go back. I believe there was one where they went back in time, or they went to a planet that was World War II Germany, and just like. So some of them were a bit. There was one, was it Balok, and he had like a ghoulish face, but he was a puppet. That was banned in the UK for years for some reason. You look back and you think, yeah, Doctor Who, same sort of crap. It was scary at the time, but quite often the chalk pits down south used to film them in an old abandoned factory, and put a silver spacesuit on someone. Then all of a sudden, you get Star Wars, and I didn't see Star Wars until I was probably 13 or 14, so I was older because it came out when I was about 7 or 8. You saw the Planet of the Apes 2001 Space Odyssey, but they're big Hollywood productions. I think Alien was quite cheaply done, or it certainly wasn't up to them sort of standards. And I do remember, and this is the reason I'm doing the video, July 1982, and I wasn't a teenager yet, so I was still a kid on the verge of, and me and my little sister were around my granddad's with my uncle, and traditional telly, 2-seat settee layout, but my granddad always used to push the settee right up, especially in the winter. Had the fire, probably had the fire on in July, knowing him, to be honest. Oh, we'll put the telly on. There's a film called Alien on, and we used to watch the Outer Limits, Twilight Zone. This is only 3 years after it had been in the pictures. So imagine, I'm brought up, me and Stan, me and my little sister, on a diet of, Outer Limits, Twilight Zone, Doctor Who, and I think like the Forbidden Planet that scared me. That did. The little invisible monster based on the Tempest. They're a high Hollywood production. I'll blow my nose here. Sorry, waffling on. But in those films, it was always white men, right? And it was always, brushed back, neat hair, iron spacesuits, and gizmoids flashing. And when you get like films like Alien, not as only a mixed crew, which is reflecting the society it was then at the time, excuse me, it was at the time anyway. But it's grungy. Space is dirty. Space isn't clean. It's like it probably, probably isn't. But if we ever perfected space flight like is in the film, it probably would end up like that, wouldn't it, I suppose. So anyway, I get my point. So we're watching this film, coming from a background of watching like basically crap, and then he goes and looks in the egg and it goes in his face. I was like, okay now, I want to go home. What's going on here? So it really was a shock to the system. But groundbreaking film, I'd say. Aliens, the film afterwards, that was probably came at a time when I was like becoming like 17, 18. So I appreciated the more gung-ho attitude of it. The rest of them, not really that bothered. I think one of them, the Alien 3, was filmed on the northeast coast up here somewhere because it was polluted by coal dust. The beach was all black. I think it was something to do with that. But that's just my little talk or crap about the film Alien and the fact that I've just finished reading the book. And that the ending in the book's exactly the same. Her and the cat get away, which is always fantastic news, especially for the cat. And I'd give Alien, what would I give it? I don't think any film's 10 out of 10, even 9 out of 10, and definitely something I could watch again and again and again. And if you haven't seen it, because it's amazing, I suppose you get a bit older, you live in your own little bubble, don't you? I certainly do. And you talk to young lads at work, or young people at work, and they'll say, Alien, oh yeah, I've never really seen it. And I just wonder how a younger person would see it if they've been brought up on CGI this and CGI that, because there's none in this film. So that's just my little sort of review of me talking nearly 25 minutes of crap. If I've missed anything, if you think I've said anything wrong, well, just leave a little thing in the comments and tell me so. As long as you're polite, you always be polite to Stan. So I'm going to go and upload this video now and probably have a few more night refreshments, or end up going to bed early or something, because I really feel like reheated crap. That's what I feel like, honestly. Anyway, this is Stan. There's no aliens in here, is there? And I will see ya.